and welcome to Felt with Us. My name is Caoilfionn Murphy O'Hanlon and I am a felt maker based in the northeast of Ireland here. So today I'm in my studios in Bridge Street Studios in Dundalk, and I live about 9 miles away on the lovely mountain of Caoilfionn in the rolling hills of South Armagh. So I have been felt making since 2005, but I made it my occupation in 2014 when I founded my business Caoilfionn. So really the muse for my work has become the mountain itself, the legends and lore of our people and our place, and I just have to look outside the door for inspiration. And the beautiful thing about discovering felt making for me was having grown up on a hill farm with pet lambs all of my life, and walking through the fields and gathering wisps of wool and enjoying that tactile nature of wool from a very early age, finding a medium that allowed myself to be creative and instantly connect me to the landscape at the door was such a joy, and wool has allowed me to do that. So I'll just show you a very quick piece of my work. This is a little piece I'm working on at the moment. It's a piece of the mountain at night time. And I suppose one of my preferred methods at the moment would be no felting. I like to do that when I make garments, of course, but also in the pictures that I make. I like to use remnants and scraps and anything I can find really that will allow me to felt. So natural materials, silks, cotton gauzes, things like that, and also materials that will take natural dyes a lot too. So as you can see, I have included some fabrics and hand dyed pieces of Teeswater locks and Wensleydale. There's bits of everything in there. I like to mix it up. I like a fusion of fabrics and wools in my pieces. But today we are going to be working on laying the foundation, on really getting your pre-felts right for this project, because we will be making them in a range of colours. And I'd like to take the opportunity to thank Nikki Collier and Leyland de Butler for joining me on this project, and Nikki for thinking it up. I'd like to thank the Design and Crafts Council of Ireland, Felt Makers Ireland and Felt Makers North, and the International Felt Makers Association for allowing this project to come to fruition, and the Keep Well campaign as well. I think it's really important that we stay as creative as we can during this pandemic and really celebrate the things we can do with our hands, because that will keep us all on the right path. So I hope you enjoy the project, and let's get cracking. So for the purpose of today's class, I'm going to take 2 pieces from our kit, 2 pieces of the lovely soft merino wool that you were supplied with, and we are going to make a piece of pre-felt. This time we're going to make one with a dark blue on the back and a light blue on the front. And really this will allow me to show you on screen the different directions of the wool, but it will also give you a piece of pre-felt that you can use on either side when you're cutting out your pieces. That will make more sense when you come to Nikki's class. But today this is the same way that we would lay a piece of felt if we were going to make a picture, and I'm just going to I'll get along and show you what to do. But first of all, I want to show you the foundation for your workspace. So you will have your tile on the bottom, and then you will take a piece of bubble wrap that you were given, and working on the top square of the long rectangle will be your workspace, and falling over your knee will be the bottom of that piece. So this is the area that we're going to work on today. So we will begin by taking one piece of roving, and as we're not making it all light blue, we'll split it in 2. So just gently split it in 2. Now when you look at your roving, you'll see that it's in one piece. If you try to pull it tightly, that won't separate. So we need to be gentle with our wool, and I'm going to show you how to do your lay the correct way, but also how to really handle your wool properly. So we're going to imagine we're going to make a square this size, and we're going to begin at the top corner. So I'm going to begin in the light blue. I'm going to take the end of the wool in my hand. First of all, I'm going to look and make sure it's kind of even all along the length is even. And then I'm going to take this little piece here and hold it in my fingers, between my fingers and here, and gently pull apart like that, like that. So I call this the wispy bit. This side is the wispy bit. And I'm going to start to lay it down. It doesn't want to come off me now. Just lay it down on along the top. Okay, so 1 and 2. Just laying along the top. The piece that's in my hand is going along the top edge. The wispy bit is coming to the bottom. So top to bottom like that. And each time I go, I'm just slightly overlapping the last piece that I laid, a bit like a shingle on a roof. Okay, so I've come, that's as far as I want to go. I want to come on my second row now. So again, I'm just going to take a piece and lay it down, and I'm just catching over the top, over the bottom. This top piece is just going over the bottom piece here, just again like a roof tile. Okay, this will, if you've never felt it before, this is the basis for any kind of felt you lay, and it does take some practice, so don't be too hard on yourself. But once you master it, you will get a nice smooth piece of felt in the end. So this little top corner is a little bit bare. I'm just going to put another bit there. So we're down, we've done 2 rows now. I'm just going to do a 3rd row. And again, I'm taking the top part that's in my hand up here. 2. Now, I've just left myself a little bit short, so I'm just going to take another little bit from over here. So now I'm ready to lay over the darker wool, but this time I won't be going vertically, I'll be going horizontally. So again, I'm going to take my piece of roving and I'm going to split it down the middle. Okay, I'm going to smooth it out, make sure there's no big holes. If there's a big lump, I'll just pull it apart like that. It just leaves it easier for me to pull. And again, we're going to start up in the top corner, but this time we're going to be going horizontally across. So it's important to have a perpendicular lay because it allows, when we start with water, it allows the fibres to lock together in a more even manner. So going down the side of the piece, down the side of the piece. Okay. And again, I'm going to come and I'm going to slightly overlap those wispy edges for my middle row. Just like that. If I see a little thin bit, I'll just fill it in as I go. But that should be. So that's my 2 rows done now. And then I'm going to come down this edge. Now I'm going to show you a little trick. If you really wanted an even square, which doesn't matter so much with a pre-felt, but if it was for something else, a little trick to get a straighter edge is to use the piece that's in your fingertips when you pull off, to use it on the outside this time. So flip it round. And it just gives a more even finish along that outer edge. Okay, so I still have a little bit of wool left. I can see little bits of lighter blue in places, and I'm just filling those in, and then we are ready for the next stage, which is wetting down. So that's our wool laid. We've laid a layer of light blue underneath, and we have laid a layer of dark blue going perpendicularly across the top. So we are now at the stage where we would like to wet our fibres down. again, we're still on the same work surface. So we have our towel on the bottom and our bubble wrap bubble side up for friction. And we have laid out our 2 layers of wool. So I'd asked you all to have a container ready. Every felt maker has a different way of applying their water to their wool, but for the purposes of equality today, I'm going to just use a very basic method, which is to have a recycled milk container or juice container and to fill it with hand hot water and have some holes pierced in the lid to use as a sprinkler. So I am just going to start the wet felting process at the moment. So we need to wet our fibres down. We don't want to move them too drastically. So this is why we're going to sprinkle the water on just like this. And when I think that should be enough, this water contains, I should have said, just a squirt of dish soap in it already. Okay, so that should be enough, I think. And as I said, it was hand hot water. Now I'm going to take the bottom end of my bubble wrap and I'm going to close it up like this, very gently, and gently place my hands on top. And I can feel the warmth of the water, so my water was definitely hot enough. Now, sometimes it's a good idea to slightly wet the top of your bubble wrap. It just allows your hands to move across it without sticking so much. So as you can see, I'm patting the middle very gently at this stage and dispersing the water right out to the edges of what is going to be my piece of felt. So I want all the fibres to be wet. So very gently pressing down to begin with. Now, I have taken a little piece of soap here. I use soap remnants of handmade soaps, or olive oil soap is also very good, but any bar of soap is good for this purpose. And it'll just allow my hands to move across. Now, so I'm pressing down, applying a little bit of pressure from the middle to the outside to make sure the water goes right out to the edges. And then I can finally start to rub a little bit when I think that all the water has been spread around underneath. So just beginning to rub. I'm not using any tools today because, as I say, every felt maker has their own preferred tools, but today I'm just using my hands and applying a little bit more pressure as I go. So I would recommend that you do this, especially if you're a first time felter. We don't want to completely felt this piece, so we're not going to be rolling it today, because when it's dry, we're going to use our pre-felt almost like an artist uses their palette full of different colours. We're going to be using pre-felts of all different colours. So really start to work the edges and the middle. I tend to use a circular motion on my hands, and I tend to use both hands as well. Give the other one a rest. So I think if you do this for about 5 minutes, should be enough. So at this stage, I can take a little peek and make sure that everything's wet through. So if you find any stray pieces of fibre sticking, you can just pull them back. But at this stage, yes, it's definitely wet through and it's soapy enough. If I wanted to be really neat, I could fold in the edges, but I don't need to do that on a pre-felt. And at this stage, after 5 minutes of rubbing, I should be able to lift it and turn it and check the back, and there's no holes. So it's a nice fine piece of pre-felt, and then I'm going to rub from this end on the back just for another minute or so. An easy way to add, if you think you don't have enough soap on your project, an easy way to add some soap is to actually rub it onto the bubble wrap that will be coming in contact. So the bubbles are up, remember. Any piece of bubble wrap that's touching your felt, the bubble sides are up. So that will add a little bit extra soap, which also speeds up the felting process. What the soap and water does is each piece of merino fibre, a bit like the hair on your head, is consisted of barbs. So the soap and water opens up the barbs on the fibres, and when they interlock like that, when we agitate it, they become solid. So that's why we need soap and water. So 5 to 7 minutes of rubbing should be enough to produce a good quality pre-felt. And that should be ready to rinse out or to leave to dry. So a good way to check if you think your pre-felt is ready is to do the pinch test. And this is where I just pinch the fibres, and they're not lifting too much, but they're not felted too much either. So I know it's good as pre-felt. So I think we're ready to rinse this out. We can handle it as a piece of fabric now. It's no longer a ball of fluff. And to simply wring out the excess water. Don't really need to rinse it, but you can if you wish, just under some gentle running water. And yes, we have a nice piece of pre-felt there, ready to go. So I recommend that you dry it flat, or even over the top of a radiator, but leave it somewhere to dry, and you will eventually have some pre-felts. So here are some I have made in different colors. So really, this is what I meant by saying that we were using these pre-felts like an artist's palette. This one I've mixed in some silks and some different colors. This is one I've done 2 different colors, one on the front and then some purple gauze on the back. So I cut this and use it as mountains and things like that. So we will be left with a piece of pre-felt like this. Don't ever throw any scraps away. You never know when you'll use them. So this is what we are aiming to make. We'll be making pre-felts in all our different colours. This is going to be a dual one, because if we want a piece of light blue, we can cut on this side. If we want a piece of dark blue, we can cut on that side. So we've used half a piece of roving for each. Okay, so when that dries, it's good to go. It's a ready-made pre-felt, and you've made your first piece of pre-felt.